Hello friends, I'm going to see if I can add a new feature to an open source project that's called azcagit. It's a GitOps engine for Azure container apps, and at large it looks like this. So we have a small service that we set up in Azure that synchronizes a Git repository, and it connects to another resource group in Azure and makes sure that all the applications specified in the Git repository are synchronized to that resource group. And it also deletes them and adds a few other features as well. Today I want to build a feature that enables us to do this, multi-region, where applications in the Git repository can specify if they can run in a specific region or specific regions, or is allowed to run in all of them. I'm not 100% sure how this should look, but I'm going to try, and I'll try to explain how I'm thinking and what we're doing. So the first thing I usually want to do is just create an issue to explain the feature. In this case, we'll just say feature to enable apps to specify region, and application manifest should be able to specify what region it allows itself to run in. And in this case, I have an environment up and running. We have the two platform resource groups, and these we have the virtual networks, we have the managed environment for container apps, we have a log analytics workspace and a service bus, as well as the azcagit container app that handles the synchronization. The same thing goes for the other region. And then we have the tenant resource group, where we have a container registry, we have a key vault, and a single container app being synchronized right now. And we should be able to see that specific application from here. So in this case, we're running an application called podinfo, and we want to make sure that we have two of it, and with some specific location configuration. Perhaps we should do something like this. We create another one. And we call them something like West Europe and North Europe. We should, and what we're going to add today is something like this: location filter, and we should be able to specify North Europe, or perhaps we should be able to specify North Europe or North Europe. In either way, and we should understand that it's North Europe. And if we add both West Europe and North Europe, it should be able to run in both of them. And if we have an empty array or it's not specified at all, it should be allowed in everyone. We can say welcome to azcagit in North Europe, and we'll do the same for West Europe. And let's modify welcome to azcagit in West Europe, and perhaps we should call it something like West Europe, North Europe. If we committed these changes, I'm not sure it actually would be able to parse it at all, since we have an undefined parameter. But we'll start with something like this, and we call this one global, or we can just call it pod info. We'll keep it as it is, make sure that we have one pod info in North Europe and one pod info in West Europe, as well as these specifics. Alright, so that's the main idea. Let's see what we need to do to actually configure this. So the first thing we need to do is to actually make sure that we can parse the application. And I usually want to do it something like this. And we should see if so we have the source app, and in this source app we want to configure a location filter, and this should be let's call it a source app location filter. We shouldn't have that in there, we should have that in the specification. And location filter, and that's will be an array of location filter specification. We're using omit empty because if it's not defined, it should be able to be set to nil. And it's created as well. So location filter in this case will just be yeah, let's try to make this just a simple string to begin with. And I'm not sure why it's complaining. Tab syntax filter JSON location filter omit empty, and we've got the colon. Alright, let's bring up the tests and see if we can create a failing test, which we perhaps should have done to begin with, but No one's perfect. We have a lot of different tests here. I think I'm just going to we're testing set secret, we're testing set registry, GitOps, not secret, right? We're creating a test, and this test will contain cases. That's an array of structs, and these structs should contain the test description, which is a string, and it should contain an input, which is also a string, and expected location filter should be location filter specification. All right, and let's just steal something I've written since before. A container invalid with multiple properties. This is a working one. So let's just simply take that and create the first test with it. Test description should be no location filter specified, and input should be what we stole earlier. Let's just expected location filter should be nil or perhaps an empty array. Let's see what happens. Right, let's test it. Let's arrange over the cases. Let's be nice to ourselves and log what's going on. We're logging the index and the description. After that, let's see how we parse this. It was a few days. We'll create a simple app, I think. Let's see here. We should be able to unmarshal something. Yeah, we should. Let's try that then. Oh, perhaps we should pass in a configuration as well, because that's where we're going to specify where we're running, but we don't need to do it there. Right. Let's convert that byte case input, and we'll just create our own config with a location that we specify as location, region, big region, something like that. And if we should be able to get an error there. We should have something like expected error contains string, expected error contains nothing, it should be empty. Alright, if nil, if c dot expect, let's just like this, and c dot expected location filter, that's wrong, expected error contains then require error else if error equals nil and c dot expected error contains let's see here. Let's make it easier. Else require error contains, let's spell it correctly, require error contains t c dot expected error contains. Alright. And after that we should be able to get app dot specification dot location filter. We should be able to say require equal and this expected one first, so that's expected location filter and then app dot specification, and that should be it. If we run the test, let's see what happens. Alright, we need to configure a few other things as well to just get it running, or else it won't parse. So we need to set up managed environment, and we need to set up I think these are the required ones. Right, we're passing. That's good. Let's copy another one. Location filter specified. Full bar. Let's try that. And we expect see if that works. That does work. Alright, we have 2 tests, we're able to parse it and that works. But I don't want this to work. I want this to do something else for me, because if we receive something like I want this to be foo bar, and if this one was foo bar, I want it to become foo bar. So we always have it in lowercase. Alright, foo bar, that's good. So that's failing right now. Let's go into the marshalling and just see if we can make sure that we remove all spaces and make everything lowercase. We want to do that because we want to match both the configured location and the one that is specified in the manifest. And at least to begin with, I think it's easier if we just make sure that it's lowercase and no spaces in it. Alright, so let's go to source app and marshal. There we go. That's right. So in this case, we validate all the fields, and I don't think we actually want to do anything with it during the validation, but we want to make sure that we convert it before we do anything else. So let's see here. If new app.specification location filter is not nil, then yeah, let's begin with that. Let's do it equal. Let's take the length instead. That's usually much easier. Not equal 0. Right, so we have an array that's not 0. Then we want to iterate. Right, let's see here. New location filter. Let's call it fixed location filter. It's location filter specification, array of location specification filter that's empty for filter in. We most likely need to do specification should have been in there. Alright, that's good. New app specification occupation filter and range that. And when we've ranged it, we'll take text filter is strings dot. We have to lower. Yeah, we do. Let's start with perhaps trim space, and we'll take filter there. Isn't filter? Oh, that's nasty. String. We'll cast it, and then filter without spaces. Then we'll take filter without space filter is to lower filter without spaces, and then we'll say fixed location, and we'll append a lowercase filter to it like that. Thank you, VS Code. And we'll see if we can run the test again. Right, still doesn't work because we've completely forgot to actually set it. So let's do that. Fixed bar, right? Trim space, return size, leading train. Alright, that wasn't actually what I wanted. Replace all. We'll take the filter as a string, and we'll take the old one, that's a space, and the new one. The issue was we still had the space in it. Alright, so now we're just replacing spaces, but let's start with that at least. Hopefully people won't be putting something like tag or anything else. Alright, what's the next step? Well, now we have a location filter, and it's in somewhat have a location filter, and it's in a format that hopefully will be the same as the one we send in, but just to make sure that's actually the case, let's make a small helper function here. I'll just we'll create it down here to begin with. Okay. What do you call it? Fix location filter. Fix location filter takes a filter that's a location filter specification, and it returns a location filter specification. We'll take filter without spaces, and we'll return location specification like that. I really don't like this, but I'm not coming up with a better name right now, so let's continue with it, because names are hard. That means we can do it like this. X location filter, that's good. And let's also make a function to see, build the logic. If source, let's just verify where I'm using this, just to check if a specific location, that's I want to make a small helper on that, where we can say that we pass it a location that GitOps engine is running, and it will return true or false if it should run. So should run in location. Let's try that. We pass as current location as a string, and we return a bool. Right. So the first thing we do is fixed current location and fixed location filter. Now I need to cast let's do that. Current location, and then we should be able to do something like this, or even before we do that, if app dot specification dot location filter, if that's 0, return true. If that's not 0, we need to iterate all the filters. Perhaps we need to do something like this, just to get all the scary. Yeah. Filter, and then we'll take the location filter and we'll say something. Oh, we need to range that, of course. When we're in there, let's see, if fixed current location is the same as filter, return true, otherwise return false. We should build a test for that as well. So let's see, let's call this parse location filter specification. Just make sure we're parsing it. Then we're doing source app should run in location. Cases this time will still be an array of structs. Let's do input will be string. We have a location filter, and that's a location filters. Oh, we need to have an app. That's source app, like that, and then we have expected result, and that current location expected result, that's boolean, and when we're doing this, first test will be something like current location is foo, the app is just nil, and let's range over that. And we'll do something like see that app dot should run in location c dot current location, and we get a result back from that, and we require that they are equal. Right, let's see if we have something weird going on, like, yeah, not checking for nil. So let's fix that. So if we didn't check if that was nil, of course. Well, the expected result should be true. Right, the next one. We have an pass specification, and this specification contains location filter, and this location filter is nil. It should still return true. And just because I never know the difference, we'll also test that an empty one is the same. It is. Well, that's great. Now let's test if we have something like that. That should return true, but let's make sure that it fails. It does. And if we add foo, oh, let's begin with just foo. It should fail because it should be true now if everything works. That's awesome. And if we do something like this, we have bar then foo. That's good. And if we do the last one, we have foo bar, and we have foo bar. That should now fail because that should be true as well. I hope. Yeah, that's good. All right. Alright, so we should now be able to parse the location filter. That's awesome. Now we want to do something about it. So let's take a look in the reconcile. Perhaps we should begin with the reconcile tests. So let's see what we have. We'll just create a new one here and see, make sure that it's failing. So test location filter, and in this case we should have something like location filter should be something that's not the same as the current config. Alright, so we should most likely create a new one like this, just because we need should have a location, and the location should be foobar. We're passing in foobar. Right, that's awesome. Now we're going to run it, and when we don't need to check this. Let's see, we create a new reconciler, we make sure that we don't have any errors on that reconciler. The source client returns something with a location filter. We should make sure that we never add anything. So that's good. All right, let's see how we did that. I can remember remote client actions. So no error, and so when the reconciler runs, we shouldn't get an error, and remote actions should be 0. That also means that we should have foobar, and now we're using something else, right? Region, right? Actions, and let's see if that works or not. Right, let's run it and see what happens. Proof of the creator update. Alright, so that's good. And we're in the right place. Yeah, we are. So what's happening right now is the second response. We're not able to find the app we should have created, and that's wrong, because we should now, since we have a location filter and the location we're passing into the reconciler something else, we shouldn't do anything, and we should do 0 actions. So that's good. Let's see if we can write some code for that then. So we have the reconciler, and it grabs all the source apps. It populates their secrets, and then it populates registries, and it grabs all the remote apps. It deletes all the apps that needs to be deleted. It creates or updates the apps that need to be updated, and then it runs through the cache update. So my best guess is that we should do something like populate source app secrets, and just make sure that we can remove those, or yeah, we should just make sure that we don't see it anymore at all. So that's perhaps what we should start with. So let's create some kind of function. Let's call it remove filtered apps, filtered source apps, and this means we will see all the source apps. Well, that's good. Let's do something like this. How am I iterating over them? Get unique. Right, get sorted names is my way of doing this right now. Get sorted apps, and let's see here. We have the app will be source apps name. I do it this way since I do it this way because source apps is actually let's see here, it's a map, and maps are unsorted, and because when I run all the tests and things like that, I really want the things happen in the correct order, and since we're always grabbing all the names and then running, we don't need to check if we actually if it existed, because we should never get something from get sorted names. That's we should never get something there and then get a false back here. So OK should never ever be false. So I just skip that step. Then we have the app, and we run app should run in location, and that's app dot should run in location, and should run in location, and we should pass the configured location to it. And if should run in location isn't true, we should do something like source apps dot remove, but source apps dot remove doesn't exist yet, so we need to create that because we're passing a pointer here, so that should be fine. Remove and name. So if it shouldn't run in location, great. Let's take a look at app, source apps. So we have get, let's create delete. And we shouldn't be able to actually, oh, right. I can't remember how you delete from a map. Alright, that's the way. Apps name, could that be it? Perhaps we need to do something like that. What does that return? Let's know, right? So perhaps we should just check for it first to make sure that we never try to delete things. If not okay, return false, else return true. or yeah, perhaps not. I'm not sure. Oh, I don't want to check for that all the time. Let's do it that way to see what happens. And remove, oh, I call it delete. And right, filtered source apps. Well, it seems like I want to do some log. So I'm using logger, which is bound to context. So we create it from here, and then I want to log something verbose when you're running in debug mode that source app was deleted because of location mismatch. Source app, and then let's do app.name and apps current location and oh yeah, let's print out filtered locations. The location filter should be app.specification and location filter. That's always dangerous. But if we get here, we should be quite alright. Okay. Well, it happens now. Well, yeah, that's of course because we created it, but we're actually not using it. And to be honest, we should just run it here. Remove filter source apps. Filter source apps, that's a good name. Filter source apps. Right now we're not returning anything because we can't fail in here. So well, let's not do anything now. Filter source apps. Oh, that's good. And we're doing filter source apps, and we're passing the context and the source apps. And what happens if we run it now? Alright, well, that seems to be working now. I'm just going to run through all the tests we have. Alright, that seems to be working. I'm going to build a Docker image and upload that. Alright, building and pushing while recording took a while, so I paused the recording, and I've also pushed the image I built to the container registry, and I've updated the platform right now, so it's running the new latest version. We can verify that it's running the new version by going to containers and just looking at the version there, and we should be able to see that that's the same version as I pushed earlier. Alright, let's see, where were we? Yeah, we should be able to see that we still only have one in each. We have pod info in North Europe, and we have pod info in West Europe. Let's commit the changes to pod info. Let's add this with location filters and see what happens. So I'll just add this and say add pod info with the location filter. I'll just push that to my test repository, and just to get it up and running faster, I'm using the trigger client, so I will trigger reconcile much faster. And when the trigger client is done, we should be able to go into the platform, check out azcagit, look at the logs and see if we're doing something new. So let's see here what happened. Yeah, source app was deleted because of location mismatch. Pod info North Europe, current location West Europe, location filter North Europe. And if we just go to North Europe, we should be able to see the same there. So we go to the log stream. Source app was deleted because of location mismatch. Pod info West Europe, current location North Europe, location filter West Europe. Alright, and if this is working, we should have pod info North Europe in North Europe, and we should have pod info West Europe in West Europe. Oh, that's nice. And perhaps we even can try to visit them. Welcome to azcagit in West Europe. And if we go to the other one, welcome to azcagit in North Europe. Well, that's awesome. Well, we're almost there. I'm going to check out what we've done so far. So let me so in the reconcile, we've added that we're when running the reconcile, we're also doing filter source apps. Filter source apps takes a context and source apps, creates a logger, it iterates over as source apps, and it checks if it should run in the current location, and if it shouldn't, it deletes it. The test we've added just adds a configuration with the current location, and it adds a fake region, and we're just verifying that we have no errors and no actions has been taken. If we look into the app, you should be able to see that we've created a new parameter for source app specification that we call location filter specification, and we've added an array of it. We've also added into the unmarshal method where we filter the location names, just to make sure. When thinking about it, perhaps that actually isn't needed. It's much cleaner, but we could actually just filter it right away here. I'm not sure. I'm going to leave it like this, and perhaps doing anything else is premature optimization. When it comes to the tests, we've created a test that we're able to parse with no location filter at all, with a location filter specified. We're also testing the app should run location. Well, that seems correct. And I actually think that's going to be it for today. So thank you so much for coding with me, and have a great day, evening, or morning. Bye bye.